Unlike our other mercenary guides, the Act 2 mercenaries have 6 flavors to choose from: Thorns, Holy Freeze, and Might from Nightmare, and Prayer, Defiance, and Blessed Aim from Normal and Hell difficulty. While in the future we may do a challenge to make the best build we can with each of them, for now we're going to look at the core builds and which flavors work best with them, rather than the more odd stuff built on top of the specific auras. First up, one of the most common builds of the Act 2 Mercenary, that may be lacking in offensive power but more than makes up for it in utility, is the Insight Mercenary. This is easily one of the cheapest mercenaries to equip when you have access to ladder runewords, often able to get the weapon by Act 1 Nightmare, and it can work with pretty much any armor or helmet, though I'd try to give it a pinch of Life Leech or bug the mercenary regularly to keep it alive longer in, well, the cheap gear that you'll probably be using. Ideally, on the high end, the armor setup for this is going to be Treachery armor for Fade, and a helmet with Leech. I tend to favor Vampire's Gaze for life leech and damage reduction to get closer to that 50% cap on physical damage reduction. The most common auras to grab for this one are Holy Freeze and Prayer, with Holy Freeze being obvious for survivability, but Prayer also having an interesting synergy since Prayer will also give meditation healing effects, essentially producing a double heal mercenary. The second one is more often seen with minion hybrid builds rather than standard casters though, but it's still fairly solid. Next up, we have one of the other more minion-focused Act 2 mercenaries, and that's the Pride Mercenary. With a concentration aura, albeit at the cost of a very expensive ladder runeword, this one is often better placed in a higher polearm as well, so you have a reasonable amount of base damage so it can leech and stay alive a little bit if singled out, since this is, of course, a melee mercenary. Again, we go with Treachery armor and a life leech helmet of your choice, since survivability is a serious factor. As far as which auras this works best with, I generally go with Might or Blessed Aim, since this is another minion-focused build, but a bit more damage-oriented than your other options, does really well with physical damage minions. For a more normal character and mercenary dynamic, we have the Reaper's Toll Mercenary for some of your physical damage dealers. With Life Leech, a high chance to cast Decrepify, and not bad damage, Reaper's Toll is a super reliable tool that can be built with a wide variety of support equipment. The two most common ones I use are either Fortitude or Treachery for the armor, and Vampire's Gaze, Guillaume's, or Andariel's Visage for the helmet, depending on your preferences. Guillaume's being especially nice since if you already have Life Leech, with Decrepify breaking many physical immunities, it makes Crushing Blow fairly solid to use. And as far as optimal auras for this, I'll use pretty much any of them, but generally speaking, the usual suspects Holy Freeze and Might are at the top of the list. On the caster end of that character and mercenary dynamic, we have the Infinity Mercenary, your best friend if you're doing fire, lightning, or cold damage, but also pretty nice if you're having just trouble hitting enemies, thanks to Conviction providing a nice push against not only the 3 resists I mentioned, but also against enemy defense. It is worth noting that, again for this build, we need Life Leech either from armor or the helmet if you want to set it and forget it. It's kind of one of those things that I like to do with mercenaries. I tend to like ones that I don't have to pay a lot of attention to. So usually I go for Treachery or Fortitude on the armor, and Vampire's Gaze or Andariel's Visage for the helmet, like we have with several builds before. As far as which base you go with this on this one, you can't really go wrong with Holy Freeze, but it can also be okay with most of the other options, except maybe Thorns, which Thorns just doesn't do anything extra with this. It doesn't synergize very well, but that's true of Thorns in pretty much every build except for the Reaper's Toll one. So you kind of have to balance it out. Anyways, if you found this useful, hit the like button and subscribe for more ways to boost your boys with pointy sticks.